and welcome to Resolve, an after-play show. This is an after show for a role-playing game that does not have an actual play, where we tell you all the details of our game so you don't have to listen to it. I'm Sammie, and I'll be your host. My pronouns are she, her, and I play Isiri the mermaid. Joining me is my wonderful co-host, Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex. My pronouns are he, him. I play Moogle bounty hunter Smog and his Melborough companion, Juice. Both use he, him pronouns.
We are joined today by our guest, Dex.
Hello, my name is Dex Fan. I play Athenos, and we both go by he, him pronouns as well.
Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today. Now that we're all here, Alex, tell us about the actual play.
Previously, in EFFETE, Athenos gathers his new entourage and returns to the chamber. After Athenos, Geyser, and Smog disparage humans, Powder points out that humans did not cause a disaster with the moon. Geyser feeds on Powder's bad vibes. Aura returns with Thompson and Hound 5. Thompson escorts Isiri and Tau to the concert hall. Geyser joins him after failing to locate a Strider. Smog introduces himself to Athenos and encourages him to build Poni's confidence. Athenos magically, temporarily, returns Poni's unicorn horn. Poni levitates Isiri's tank before the horn slowly vanishes. They leave to the concert hall with Powder, Aura, and Hound 5. Smog and Juice plan to act as security for the performance. Isiri asks Thompson about Aura and Sierra. Geyser, confused by Thompson's reports of obvious incidents, messes with him more. Tau shares that he could report similarly in bad enough circumstances. Isiri and Tau meet the other performers and begin practice. Smog and Juice gauge Hound 5's capabilities, and Athenos rolls him forward to help. Athenos, Smog, and Poni continue to disparage humans. Powder and Aura say their world has not experienced deities or beings like them before. They agree to tell Athenos more about their history after the performance. Everyone meets in the performance hall as an aircraft lands outside. And that was the actual play as I saw it. Anything to add to that?
I think that's what happened.
Awesome. Awesome.
All right, so now that you've heard the actual play, let's do a deep dive into the session. So immediately we start off with Athenos' shenanigans, because you weren't there last session, so we had a special interlude with Athenos interacting with these poor guards. How did that go?
Well, so the guards, forgive me if I cover anything that's already been covered, but the guards had hazmat suits on because they were afraid of contamination. Athenos is from a very ancient world, so he does not know of these hazmat suits, aside from they look rather hideous. So what he did was instead he transformed all of the suits into beautiful robes, brocaded, embroidered silks, like ropes, whatever. Like just more attractive clothing. Because that's the kind of person that he is. And I think we started with him in the hallway with these humans who were running away because they were like, oh gosh, we're going to get contaminated by whatever this is going on. So Athenos thought he thought that these humans were worried about their uncleanliness. So he summoned a rainstorm indoors to clean them and then re-robed them, which I think was a very upstanding thing.
Just imagine being stripped naked and then a big wolfman washes you with rain and then redressed.
Yeah, like a deluge of rain, and then your clothes are back on.
I love that, like, you didn't tell me you were dirty.
You should have said something.
I was like, oh, is that the only problem? Gosh. So now he thinks there's no bathhouses here either, which is really just, what a waste.
It's all just metal. Gross. So yeah, you got back to us quickly. It was a pretty short scene, but you had a posse with you.
Indeed. And then we split up again rather quickly. I think half the party was going to go prepare for the festival music event. And then, of course, that's when you mentioned that Smog, Poni, and I got to kind of get to know each other a little bit more as well.
Yeah, that almost went pretty differently. I'm sort of preempting Sammie's favorite question here, which is if there's anything you could have done differently in the session, what might it have been? And I was thinking about having Smog join Geyser to go looking for a Strider, but I don't think I understood in character enough what was going on there. But Smog is very like technologically minded. In his world, Muggles are very involved with Magitech. He has a Magitech gun. I think he would have been interested to see what was going on with the Striders and probably could have convinced one other person to come along. And then someone else might have gone along with our singers, with our performers, and we could have had a very different session.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a little sad that you didn't, because the technology Dan is hinting at with these Striders is sort of mystifying to me. So I'm very curious to see what else is going on there. But I'm pretty happy with how everything turned out, because we simultaneously raised Poni's dreams and crushed them within 5 minutes.
It's true.
Geyser also had a lot to do with your side of things. So yeah, things would have ended up completely different, just messing with those groups a little bit.
I guess to continue preempting that question.
I love it. Take my job.
of what we would have done different. I like how it turned out, again, like with Poni and Smog, because I think there was good character development there. I think in terms of a meta perspective, I think I would have liked to also go with Geyser and Tau, just because, and Isiri, just because in the interest of keeping the party together, like it's a lot easier to push the story forward when we're all in the same place. And that's, of course, something Dan is still working on as a new DM.
Yeah, he's a new DM, and I know sometimes, especially with a group of our size, it's easier if there is some little small split so that everyone gets their little moment to shine without fighting against every other voice in the party. But he'll get into the flow of it a bit better. He's been doing a fabulous job so far. It's very surprising that this is his first time.
Agreed.
Yeah, I was amazed at how conscious he was able to be of the time as a new GM, because I know that's something that has been difficult in larger groups, but he was on it, making sure that we swapped back and forth this session especially. As far as meat and potatoes, I think I sort of kicked things off next with Smog. Like immediately I knew, hearing about Athenos as a confidence god from Geyser, you weren't there for Geyser to talk Athenos up and down to everyone else. But I think I can't remember exactly how she was disparaging, but it did say that you were like a confidence god, and I was immediately the previous session talking to Poni, doing like a magic lesson where she just farted because it was supposed to be wind magic. So it was like, obviously we need to put these two forces together,
right? And then now Athenos views Smog as kind of like a basically like a guide to mortals, like a secretary or like a facilitator between gods and humans. So that's kind of what Athenos thinks of Smog now, all because of Geyser's introduction of him as a confidence god, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually so funny. I didn't know that D said that.
Yeah, and that goes like perfectly with what I've built for my Muggles from my Final Fantasy world for Smog, because I tried to square this like weird Fey-like version of Muggles who can also be summoned with this like Evilise or other game representation where they're more people-like, especially the Evilise version are like a little skinnier and look like a sort of a normal creature more than a fairy. And it's like, well, okay, they were at some point part of this class of things that could be deities, but they were rejected, but still end up as a guide between the two factions now.
Does Smog feel any jealousy at seeing Athenos as being like a full deity, knowing his history?
I think that Smog is too reverent of Espers to look at somebody that's a deity and say, I'm annoyed that you have it better than me.
I think what's going to be interesting is when we find out Athenos versus Smog's idea of humans. Because if I remember correctly, during like character introductions, like this is out of game knowledge for both of our characters. I think Smog doesn't like humans, right? Like Smog thinks humans are like a bane on like the world.
Yeah, so a lot of inspiration for Smog's Final Fantasy world comes from Final Fantasy VII, where people are stripping the environment of its resources and in turn sort of capturing espers and making them do their bidding without knowing that they're sapient beings. And that's mostly heralded by humans. There are other like fantasy races going on in his worlds. So yeah, not a very great view of humans, has already sort of looked at the destruction that's going on planet side, looked at the blown up moon and been like, well yeah, humans did this, of course. What the fuck else are they
Of
going for?
course.
But we do learn, and Powder, after having to listen to us talk smack about people for like 20 minutes, Powder gets the courage to stand up and is just like, hey, we didn't do this. The moon's fucked up, but we didn't do this. So who fucked up the moon is the ultimate question. And that could just be the subtitle of this campaign, maybe.
Right. There seems to be a lot going on in this world to the point where I didn't. So, for those of you who have not played Interstitial, of course, this is like a combination of a whole bunch of worlds into it's one huge crossover event, right? So it makes sense that we would start out in like a hub world and then we get to travel to other worlds and see how they've combined in interesting ways. And I don't know how Dan is going to run it either, because I forgot that we were in a hub world.
Yeah.
I love that. You had this moment of just like, holy shit, this is only the beginning.
Oh, we're in the hub world. Things make a lot more sense now. Because like we're going to be traveling more and we'll do more world hopping kind of thing. I was so invested in figuring out what was going on here that I wasn't really thinking about like the meta question of like what's coming next for us as characters, as players.
Oh, I am too. I'm so interested in what the hell's going on, like systematically, and was not like topography, that's like surface level of maps or whatever, but like with I guess geographically with the world and the traveling ocean, and see what other factions of people, because we've only met this one group of people. There has to be another faction of people on this planet, because they've talked about a rebellion. So who else is out there?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just having fun dunking on like the humans that are around. I think is what it's coming down to, is how can I most inconvenience these humans, me as Dexter wanting to inconvenience these humans in a way that Athenos would do. So like it's just very fun.
So here's where I like put on the sirens. Here's the wee woo conspiracy zone. Because we started talking last time about Psychoglass possibly being what's making Isiri's bubble work,
Yes.
and what's the fluid in all of these robots that are hanging around. So I need to bring you in on this conspiracy, because you also played in that interstitial game with us.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this could be 26 Bobs?
Oh my gosh, I forgot about 26 Bob.
26
Terra, for the uninitiated.
-80B, Terra, Dan's character from Alex's interstitial campaign, basically ended that campaign with the ability of gaining magical bullshit space powers and a rage and hatred towards injustice. So
That would be pretty interesting, but I'm gonna say no at the moment.
Here's my
I'm
thing.
gonna naysay the sirens. Boo! Boo! Sirens!
Here's my justification beyond our Psychoglass that we talked about in our last episode. The moon being blown up ain't the fault of the humans. That makes me think it's aliens. The aliens strip mine the moon of the Psychoglass. And that's why everything's fucked.
I like this because, like, let me tell you about how much thought I've put into what's actually happened to the moon. I was like, none. Zero. Dexter has put zero thought into, oh, the moon's blown up? The moon's blown up? I don't care about that. How can I neg on these humans some more?
That's
I think
interesting.
it's more like, it's so funny that I'm like, the moon's blown up, and then like for some reason Athenos is like, it's just some god's done it, or the humans have done it. Like I was like, the humans have like no power, they couldn't have done this on their own. Some god's probably blown up the moon, they're having another fight, the moon god is like in conflict with someone and then got like dunked on. And then Athenos is like moved on.
Yeah, he made this bridge of consequences very quickly and was like, okay, that works, let's move on.
I mean, like, the moon will be back. It'll be fine.
See, I'm glad you said that, because the thing, I haven't had a chance to bring this up in character as Isiri yet, but Isiri has just came from this world after like running away from a ritual that went poorly. So she thinks she's in hell or like some sort of punishment right now.
Oh.
And I think she's starting to be like, oh, if we fix the moon, maybe I can go home. Like, is this my penance for misbehaving? Do I have to complete this Herculean task to make everything right again?
Well, if you sing well enough, the moon comes back together and the earth starts, rotating around the sun again.
I don't know if Isiri can sing that well. I mean, she sings pretty great.
Damn.
She is a mermaid, but I don't know if she can sing out with enough resonance that all of the shattered meteor shards that are the moon come back from the planet and glue themselves back together.
So something we talked about in my character episode is that usually I like to play characters who are very weak early on and then like get stronger over time. But something I've learned over playing like a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse games over the years is that their magic system is fundamentally broken.
Yes.
Like, you can be as strong or as weak as you want with their magic. So a part of me was like, what if I like ask Dan if I can cast magic fix the moon? Like, can I just like fix the moon, put it back up in the sky? Like, not trying to be difficult to his story, but like, because Athenos' magic is such like on a macro scale of things, I'm curious if that's something he's like considered or factored in for us to do.
I don't know. I'll have to ask him or pick his brain about that. But that's one of the things I was worried about when you cast magic to give Poni a horn. I was like, is this going to be like a long-term thing? I'm so glad it was so short, but I was like, is this going to fundamentally change Carolyn's character from like session 4?
Right? I was like, oh, I didn't expect this to work.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it's like I can put the moon back in the sky, but then it like falls apart after a short while because it's not like a permanent effect or something.
Yeah, there's only so much magic can do in interstitial, and then like, does Athenos know what the moon needs to be whole again?
Right.
What function does it provide this world that is not flat?
I feel like Athenos would turn it into a giant boulder and be like, it's fixed. I did it.
Yeah. We just cobble some more rocks onto it. It's good enough.
Just be like, next task. Thank you.
You're going to ruin the cover art for this podcast, X.
I don't think Smog could help with that at all, but he can act as a small gang when he's fighting or in a violent situation. So he could blow up the rest of the moon.
Great.
Probably pretty easily. If that's what you want.
I don't. I don't want that.
Isiri? So, actually, you know what? This is not even a segue. This isn't even... The segue is I'm saying this right now. Is that I'm surprised by how meek of a character Isiri is, or has been.
Thank you. But that's something... Because I play a lot of, like, punk-ass, like, I don't give a shit, like, fuck authority characters. So I wanted to challenge myself and play somebody who's, like, really timid and very meek about things. And I'm so glad that that's coming across, because I feel like I've been doing a piss-poor job of that.
No, you've been doing a great job. Maybe you should have had me on sooner. / maybe I should have been available more.
Maybe you should come on the show more often.
Damn, don't call me out like this. I am the guest. What the heck? No, but yeah, I feel like you've been doing a great job. I've been meaning to point it out because it's such a like not a, like an opposite to your character in the sense that you're never meek. Oh, you're so like right, but it's so different from how your mannerisms I feel like usually are, where like you project like this confidence and like this level of knowledge, and then Isiri is like, oh my god, I need an ocean. Someone help. So I just think it's just a very interesting like dichotomy of like like a very different character from how you as a person usually portray yourself.
Thank you, I appreciate it, and I'm glad it's coming across, and it's been very fun for people, because that's one of the biggest things I've had anxiety about recently is I'm not 100% confident in the deeper facets of Isiri's personality yet. But I just have like the surface level, okay, this is how she'll react in this situation, this is what she fears, this is what she kind of wants. But I don't know all of her like quirks and mannerisms quite yet, so I'm glad it's starting to cobble itself together.
That really helps put Isiri into focus for me, because I've played a very similar character, not in being nautical or anything, but my first D&D 5e character was from this very sort of set off society and had his own idea about what things in the world might be like, and was very trusting of authority because there was a lot of authority in his smaller version of society. I'm interested to see, in a sort of parallel way, how Isiri deals with society that is not working well, if she trusts leaders in just mismanaged situations like my character did sometimes.
Because that's actually something that falls into her backstory a little bit. Is it's a very ritualistic. I kind of want to use the word theocracy, but there's really no government. It's just like the religion of the abyss sort of just runs their society, and it's very loose of a society because there's not many people. It's like everything's very transient in the deep ocean, as you can imagine. But when they do get together, it's like the high priest does all this stuff, and then there's priestesses under them, and blah blah blah. And the series in training to become one of the next priestesses. So she very much listens to authority a lot, but the authority is a little mismanaged in this society right now because they're undergoing a crisis. So I wonder how she's going to react to other authorities that she's not familiar with, and maybe that could open her eyes to some problems going on.
I really like how the word mismanaged in this context, because it does feel like for the past several sessions, what our characters have been very good at doing is mismanaging the situation because of our backgrounds, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because Isiri, like, we've been talking about dunking on humans for the last 20 minutes or so, but, like, Isiri's never encountered a human until this moment. She's heard stories of them from the shallow mermaids that she's encountered on rare occasions, but she doesn't know if any of that's true or not, so she's had this really conflated image of humans, and now she's finally met them, and she's like, that's it? She's not very impressed by everything. But she's heard horror stories about them, like, harvesting people, or harvesting merfolk, and she's like, this is all they are? They look like they're squishy and tiny. What are you talking about?
I think, Smog is probably one of the few characters who knows how powerful humans can get. I think Poni is probably also on that end, but maybe not even as far as Smog, because he's seen the big bad of his Final Fantasy game be the president of a company who is just ripping up the earth. So it's like, oh yeah, humans could totally do that.
Dang, President McBigbad.
Yeah. That's very, very Final Fantasy, especially that, like, PS1 era.
Ugh.
Damn, Final Fantasy is anti-capitalist? Hell yeah.
Who could have ever known based on the source material? You have to do some deep reading to get there, I think.
Agreed. Some reading between the lines, some like suggestive context, I think. But yeah, back to Isiri. I really do have found her very endearing, and I think the first it was in the first episode that I was like, wow, she's really timid and really meek, because like it was when you found how sorry to go back to like a previous episode, like, but it was like when Isiri and Poni first met Hound 5, we had like a full 30 minutes of both of them running away from like functionally Dan, and I was like living for it.
I feel bad for him because, again, being a DM as a DM is just herding cats. Essentially, you have to get your players is like in gear sometimes, and we did not give him an easy start.
No,
especially when you have 6 people in an Apocalypse Engine game.
Yes.
The start can be a little rough, but once you get there, you find a pattern.
I expect this upcoming session to be, speculatively, I expect it to be to kind of like not get us started, but get us like progressing the plot forward into like the macro plot.
Oh yeah, he's gonna kick our ass into gear because we're left with an airship flying down from presumably the moon, unclear, but definitely from the upper atmosphere, and it lowered a gangplank, and we're awaiting the arrival of the captain TM, whoever they are, gender not revealed, but
Hey.
So
Captain
remember
gender reveal party?
Yeah.
Well, hey, wee woo, more sirens.
Yeah, I was about to say,
other,
we have some more conspiracy crafting here.
Our other speculation, our other bit of conspiracy here is that Terra is the captain.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So like 26 Bob coming back.
I love you, 26
All right.
Bob.
I feel like you're talking me into this, but also I don't know if he would include the reference to the previous. I feel like he would want to like strike off on his
So
own.
when Dan was putting this together, he said he might include some things, and I was like, well, technically all of my interstitial games are connected. If you would like absolutely everything I've done, including Zach's excellent notes on his game. So he has a ton of stuff that would land especially with me and Zach if he wanted to use it.
Okay, now your wee woo is working.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, damn, is 26 Bob gonna come out of this air?
Follow us into the dark side decks. We have Psycho Glass.
Glass chip cookies.
Glass chip cookies.
Oh, that could be.
Awful.
That could be really interesting. In the interest of not all of us getting on board the like tinfoil hat plan, I think I'm gonna go in ahead and say like I'm gonna lean on the other direction still and be like maybe it's. I have gotten to this like with complete lack of, not memory. That's not the right word, but like lack of considering that the previous campaign could be attached to this campaign in any way. So I'm currently on the idea that this is completely different, no Psycho Class, and no 26 Bob, but you make very compelling arguments. Now I'm not going to be surprised if they show up, but I'm currently expecting them not to show up still.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah. Wee woo.
How do you think Athenos is going to deal with the captain? Because we've talked a little bit about how Isiri might. I think that Smog has talked in character about like nudging up to them about as being the head honcho of this place and like needing a job, needing to earn money before he and Juice escape. But Athenos already feels like he is the big authority in the room. What is going to happen?
Yeah. So to follow up with that, like Geyser, you mentioned, has described Athenos as the confidence god, and that's kind of correct. Maybe like the stubborn god is probably the most accurate, but confident, definitely. Arrogant, certainly. It's like it's to the point where we've had multiple deep dives since the campaign started, and every deep dive, the question has been, what's the most dangerous thing in the area? And the answer has consistently been Athenos has been the most dangerous thing in the area. So I think it's gonna like you said, Alex, I think it's gonna be very interesting when Athenos meets this captain, because no one has challenged Athenos' authority thus far. And I think it'll be very interesting if the captain does like have this air of like superiority or like in chargeness. I wonder, I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, would Athenos be like, that's cute? Or would he be like, you're like overstepping your lines? I think I'm kind of currently leaning towards like, that's cute, like you're so brave for like what you are, a human. Kind of like condescension, basically.
Okay, nice. You're a leader of humans. Well, I'm a leader of you.
Yeah, like good. You're doing good, sweetie.
But then there's always the opportunity for the captain to be like, "Well, I brought you here. I can tell you what to do. You're under my authority now."
Right. I think it very much depends on like the tone of how Dan is playing this figure. I think that's really kind of informed how I've interacted with his world and its characters so far. Everyone's been very like meek and like, oh gosh, new people, like please don't hurt us, and also like, you're new, this is so exciting, this is like something special. So I'm very curious if this captain is going to be very different in terms of the character as opposed to like the people he's leading.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we could have like had that interaction a little bit sooner if you talked with Sierra at all, because Sierra seems to be not as powerful but has a personality that makes him feel like the big person in the room, but he's not interested in the type of being that Athenos is.
Yeah, Sierra should have retired 5 years ago, but he's still working. So,
from what I've gathered from the dialogue that I came in this week from missing last week's session, we're not a fan of Sierra.
It's not like Toroid, where all my homies hate Toroid.
No.
Sierra lends a lot of distrust, especially for Isiri, because they immediately violated one of Isiri's like personal tenants, which is like personal space, because they're a research biologist apparently for aquatic creatures. So they immediately came up and started studying her, and she was like, no, no thank you.
I mean, like, and that's because the series also like extremely out of her comfort zone.
Yeah, that too.
She's in like a water bubble.
Everything's compounded, and she's just like, go away.
Now that I'm curious about like, because interstitial doesn't always have like worlds combining, like the worlds that we go to don't necessarily have to be like a mishmash of like one world with another world. So it could just be like we go to a series world, or we go to Smog's world, or something like that, or like a mash of 3 worlds even. So I'm really curious, like, if we do any traveling in the next, or world hopping in the next episode campaign session, if what it's going to be like when we go to like a world that's inspired by a series world.
Yes, because that's something I haven't even considered, because I was like, oh, Dan's gonna make a bunch of individual worlds, blah blah blah, we're gonna find new and unique things. I didn't even consider he would just take our backstories and just make them a place. That never crossed my mind at all.
Because like if we end up in the deep sea, that would be like,
I want to
so
see everybody get like in a tin can in the series, just like swimming around.
We just need to figure out who our Donald Duck is, and we take costume change.
No.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, Athenos and Tau would be okay, because Tau's a non-corporeal.
Yeah.
Some can be non-corporeal, and then Athenos doesn't have to breathe, technically.
I think Juice would probably be okay, because Marlboro and Final Fantasy games are usually in like swamp areas. So I don't know, probably an amphibious plant ?
Would it be too salty for Juice?
I don't know. I think it would be fine. I think for Juice it's fine. It's really Smog. Fine flying around in the air, fine walking on land, not so good with damp fur.
Smog is like, this is a bridge that we will cross when we get there.
Yeah. I'm going to cast Bubble on myself, which is usually extra HP, but this time it's an air bubble.
That'd be so funny if like everyone like had to be in bubbles except for Isiri in this one particular world.
She would be amused constantly. Be like, now you understand.
Now you get it.
And when we leave, we never speak of this again.
Don't look at me or my gills ever again.
That was another funny thing that came up, because money in Final Fantasy is gills.
Yes.
So Smog was talking about, like, what's the contract for this performance? How much gil are they going to get? And Siri's like, well, I have 10 of them.
Which I believe I miscounted. I think I look at my art bag. I think she has 12. But regardless.
You're 2 gil richer.
Awesome.
But yeah, all I was going to say was I'm very interested in seeing what kind of worlds we'll be traveling to.
We did like jump to the end chronologically, but we didn't talk a ton about what was going on.
That's right. We're setting up, we're setting up for a concert, and somewhere in the middle, Poni gets granted the gift of confidence from our god Athenos.
I thought that was played really well by both Carolyn and Dan, because it was something that was happening to her character that was like outside of her control. So me as a person, I'm never hoping to do something to someone without like their consent in a game. So I feel like she played it really well as like Dan with like the temper. It wasn't like a instantaneous 4 sessions, like you were saying, 4 sessions, and it's like a complete change to Carolyn's character. She still has the same goal as she did at the start, but we have an interesting scene and like more of a development between our characters now.
Yeah, you gave her a taste of what she's always wanted, and now she's hungrier than ever.
And that's perfect for Smog's little schemes over here. Everybody gets more powerful, stronger, relies on me to do it.
Oh, he's scheming again.
I'm curious how this concert is going to play into like the progress of the. So something I'm not like when I enjoy a media, usually I'm not like trying to figure out where it's going. Sometimes when you're watching something like a show or a TV show or a movie, it becomes very obvious where the plot is going. But it's like so fun to get like lost in what someone else is constructing, like some world that someone's created. And I feel like I've done that with Dan's world. So I'm not necessarily thinking about like why is he doing this concert? Like, what is he trying to set up? But I'm very interested in how the concert is going to progress our story as characters. Or if it's just like a fun event, like a pizza party.
Yeah, I need to think about what I want to do for that, because Isiri and Tau have been kind of conscripted into the performance aspect of this because they're both musical characters. So I'm not sure what I want to have Isiri do here. I have my ideas about something very stupid I could do. But I don't know if Dan's fully expecting me to like sing an entire song or something. Not that I'm opposed to it.
I think Zach might have some Vocaloid track queued for us by then, because he's been digging into different things that he thinks would remind Tau of other characters, maybe to have them listen to at some point. So I wouldn't be surprised if he has something queued up for Tau to sing next time.
I wonder what
Nice.
what kind of performance Tau is going to give off, because they have that whole dragony, fiery, not quite like emo core energy, but like there's that little bit of edge.
I hadn't thought about, we have our performance rivals as fire and water embodying
Yes.
scaly creatures until now. That's so interesting.
It's so perfect. It's just aligned. Yeah, there's so many connections between characters, and we all came up with these independently. I love it. We're so on the
Agreed.
same the same wavelength.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure because Smog is so distrustful of humans, he's going to have Juice like scrambling around everywhere, being his eyes on the ground and acting as security. So I have that figured out for him. If there's any threats there, which there probably won't be, he'll take care of it. But what is Athenos going to do? Is he just going to take in the show?
I think so. I think this is going to be like if it's going to be like a modern show, it's going to be very different from like the shows he's used to like the humans in his world putting on. I think what's really exciting is whenever something big that threatens the party or threatens him happens, I think he's just not going to be prepared for it, because nothing has ever like challenged his personal well-being, his safety. Like, there's of course like his sister, and like they have conflict and they fight all the time, but like he's never like had fear for his life, you know? So I'm very curious what a threat to Athenos will look like. And I think he'll be unprepared for whatever that threat is, because there's just like so few things that have threatened him ever, you know? So he's just in the moment. He's living, he's eating whatever, he's partying, he's gonna see this festival. He's like, this is great.
He had a pretty bad reaction to learning that Smog has seen gods trapped and manipulated in crystals before.
Yes, he was like, that's not something that's ever been able to happen on his world, right? So he was like, whoa, I forgot about that conversation.
The idea that humans could do it,
yeah,
seemed to really offend him.
Yeah, I low-key kind of wish Isiri was part of that conversation as well, because her magic is basically just borrowing a piece of the primordial energy of the gods and then, giving it back, the ebb and flow of water there. So, like, the fact that somebody has taken an entirely of the abyss and put it into a rock just would blow her mind.
Yeah, the idea of crystallizing god energy is very, very interesting.
We love Final Fantasy.
We love Final Fantasy. But yeah, I remember the conversation now, and I definitely remember Athenos having a negative like reaction to like basically what amounts to like stealing like the power of the gods without like quote unquote earning it in his eyes. You know, like he's like, you could get these powers if you just became a demigod, right? So like it's not unavailable to you. So like it sounds like cheating the system to him, I guess. And also, like, you're capturing a god, which is something he didn't think was possible. He would have a very interesting conversation with Edelgard von Hresvelg.
I was literally, because I've been playing Three Hopes, been thinking about the way power levels work in that, and then another game I'm playing, Pillars of Eternity, in relation to our game. And I'm like, what counts as a god in Fire Emblem is so different from what we're dealing with in this game. Like, it's surprising Edelgard is so interested in that piddly power when we've got this man who shapes the earth and walks around thousands of feet tall everywhere?
I mean, what is a god but anything you put worship into? It doesn't even have to be powerful. I mean, look at Poni.
Yeah. Right.
Poni's essentially idealized the concept of unicorns. Certainly unicorns have power, like, as, she's described them, but compared to whatever Athenos could do, nothing. Not even on a blip.
But even Poni catches on to that. It's just like, yes, Athenos did this for me. I'm worshipping you now. I don't know what I need to do. Maybe I'll hold you a bake sale.
I would legitimately love that. It would be like a modern day version of like people bringing like shrine offerings or altar offerings.
Which is great because Poni is a horse, as we've established, does not have thumbs. I don't know how she's going to bake a cake or something, a brownie.
Well, she's the taster because she likes apple fritters.
You're right.
From this, we learn, are fundraisers inherently religious? Are fundraisers worshipping events? Are bake sales worshipping events?
I mean, I'd worship a bake sale.
As long as you have a commerce deity, as long as you have a baking deity. One of those two things, yes.
You know what? Commerce doesn't really exist in a series world. I just thought about that. There's no, like, trade.
Wow, yeah, not even barter?
No.
You could definitely play that up. That'll be very interesting when we go to worlds where there is a significant amount of that, like in Smog or in Tau's world specifically. Tau is getting like paid constantly to do things.
Ooh, is Tau getting?
I don't think
paid?
Tau is a non-licensed agreement, right? They're just open source.
Yeah, Tau's doing a bunch of free work.
Oh my god, is this
because no one understands that they're sapient.
Damn.
This got really...
That's hell, actually.
Yeah.
No one... we have recreated I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream.
Yeah. That's another angle for all these characters who are upset with humans to be angry on Tau's behalf in a way that they would not care about, probably. They definitely view themselves as existing to serve humans to some extent, especially because that's where they get their power and their existence.
We all have trauma here.
It's just such a fun cast of characters to have this happen to.
It really is, and I can't wait to see how all these experiences change and affect them going forward. Because that's the real motivator for a character, right? You want to see how they change throughout the story.
Yes. I think it hasn't like registered with Athenos yet that we have been pulled here. It wasn't like randomly like something happened and it like we all ended up in this hub world. Like these humans created something that we have yet to see ourselves that pulled us all into this world. So that's like pretty crazy.
I think what's funny to me from Smog's perspective is that it's actually worse than what he was already doing, because he had these nice smooth rides through his weird gravity bubbles, and this thing was like jarring and made everybody want to puke.
Gross.
Yeah, it was not good. It was like not a fun trip.
It was not, and the landing was really hard for a series.
True.
I'm very curious about the technology in this world, because Dan's described this teleportation technology as being like the most primitive form of it. It's like duct taped together. They've barely jerry-rigged it to work. But they also seem to have some other sort of, like the elevator shaft, quote unquote, we were in the other session, and just the way these buildings work, like they were raised on stilts and they can like raise and lower. So there is some advancement here, but it's not quite so far flung into the future where it's like flying cars and stuff yet.
Right, but they have enough for like these giant mechanical striders. But what's interesting also is it was like some sort of magic technology, right? Because we met the pilots. Geyser met the pilots, and they didn't seem to be like controlling the ship in a way that we would typically consider controlling a ship. They were doing something mental and like holding each other's hands, and that's how the ships were moving. So I agree. I'm very curious how the technology actually works in this world.
I've been describing it as kind of like psionic. It seems to be based on people's thoughts mostly. It's not like working.
Like Psycho Glass? Wee woo, wee woo?
Like Psycho Glass, yes. But especially because I think Dan explicitly said, like, this doesn't feel like magic to someone at some point. And is like, that's interesting.
Yeah, because I think Smog was looking at the weapons that some guards were carrying, and I think you did like a deep dive or something on that, and he described it thusly. And I'm certain that's also whatever powder that they put into Isiri's tank water to allow the bubble to operate too.
Yeah, I wonder what level they're working with the technology as far as AI too, because it's obviously enough that we as characters get to have links with these NPCs that are AI, they're physical robots, but like something's obviously wrong with Thompson. When Geyser was pushing him around, he was just like, I have been pushed. You rotated my arm 90 degrees.
Like just constantly listing their debug and action reports verbally.
Oh,
Yeah.
And like that upset Geyser because they just didn't understand that sort of reaction to things. Like, shouldn't you have something visceral like, hey, I'm disrupting your ability to do whatever you're doing? Why aren't you lashing out? And Thompson's just like, oh, I will fix this problem. Boop, boop, boop.
And I think half of us have also figured out in character that Hound is repurposed for medical purposes. Like, what is going on with these robots that they exist, but they can't make new ones for these functions? And they're kind of useful, but also seem a little sketchy. What is going on with these robots?
Yeah, Hound is a little more terrifying the more you look at him. Hopping back to Thompson and Hound 5, Isiri was a little chagrined and shy to watch Thompson put a hose into Hound 5 and refill the tank of water. So clearly Thompson is some sort of distribution bucket, if nothing else, for this fluid.
I love that Poni does not give a shit and just jumps right up to the window to look at it. It's like, I need to see this strange fluids.
Exchange of fluids, which Isiri's like, oh, do you need a room? Like, I'll leave. Like, what is going on? Where are they getting this fluid? Where are they producing it? What other functions does it have? There's so many lingering questions.
Oh, sorry. I feel like we're getting in our own way of knowing what these things are. Like, it's not like these are mysteries because Dan has made them a mystery, so much as they're mysteries because we keep negging the people who want to tell us about what's going on.
Well, also, how much in character do we care? Like, us as players, we're like, what the hell is going on here? But our characters are so assured of where they are and where they're from that they know everything, so it doesn't matter to them.
That's true. They're like, this liquid, we don't care.
Fuck it, it's magic juice.
Isiri doesn't immediately trust whatever powder they're putting in because she views it as a pollutant. She's like, I don't want that in my gills. Go away. And then they're like, you need it. And she's like, fine, I'll begrudgingly do this so I can, like, participate. But she doesn't... I think she does want to know more. She doesn't know what questions to ask.
I do also think it's very interesting. We didn't touch on this too much, but I'm very interested that these people, they were afraid of us contaminating them, but also they have us performing in their concert. It's like the two modes.
I mean, I guess we passed that test. So.
As a character, Smog doesn't care because, like, whatever, humans are dumb. But I was thinking, like, is Dan, like, scanning our characters in the background or something? Like, what is going on that they are eventually okay with letting us roam around? Is everyone going to be in hazmat suits at the performance?
Well, they won't be for long. Athenos will be like, I need to have a word with your clothing designers. This is clearly
I need to open a tailor shop immediately.
Yeah, me as a person, very interested to, like, why they were trying to contact otherworldly beings in the first place. Like, what was the purpose of bringing all of these separate entities to their world, to the extent where, like, they're sending out patrols, they're sending out, like, weird crab walkers, they're sending out Hound 5, Thompson, to, like, find potential signs of, like, a success, but for why? Like, why are we here? Why did we get brought here?
That's the one thing that makes me question my Terra theory, because they had pretty good interactions with outside worlds, but in their own world, like, aliens came and messed everything up. Why would they need to reach out again?
Yeah.
What if it's not a again, but it's before. What if it's a prequel?
Oh, I don't know.
Wee woo,
Wee
wee
woo,
woo.
wee woo. I don't know about that, but I think perhaps the robots were a bit more coincidental because it looked like Thompson at least was just sort of scavenging out there. I don't know about Hound 5. That might have been more directed on Sierra's behalf. I think Sierra knows more than he's letting on, but I think Thompson at least it was coincidental that he ran into you guys out there.
Yeah, and that definitely colored Smog's thinking. He thought stuff was way more fucked than it was if there's just a scavenger robot hanging out there as opposed to someone who's actively looking to help someone.
Right.
And you were just like, ooh, things, bring them to me.
Yes, I was like, worshippers? Come here, my precious little babies.
My delightful little friends. I would love to give you an earth hug.
Oh, that was a really fun scene to play. In general, I'm having a lot of fun casting big magic with, like, objectively very few consequences at the moment.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to when Dan punishes me for doing big magic.
I can't wait to do more magic nonsense as a series, because my last character in Alex's interstitial campaign was a mage whose magic hurt him when he used it. So he was very hesitant to use it at all unless he absolutely needed to. But now I'm just like, hey, I have freeform magic. I'm a siren, baby. Let's go. Let's do this thing.
Exactly.
Overall, how would you say your characters are feeling right now?
I would say Athenos is feeling very relaxed. Yeah, like, this is a low threat environment. He's like he's like just working on finding new worshippers. He's excited that this is like a new experience. He doesn't have those like super often. And he figures if he wants to go back to his world, he'll just like rip open a portal through time space or something. I don't know. Try something new with his magic.
What about Smog?
Smog and Juice are definitely very wary right now. Like, their next mission is going to be security. Smog has basically been tipping Juice off, like, you need to keep your eyes out here. We need to report into each other and make sure nothing is a threat to us here. So they're on the lookout, but excited to have a job, possibly.
Yeah, and I think Isiri is, very cautious, very, no, but now that she's got her, like, base life functions settled for what it seems, she's very curious. That's one of her main motivations, is her curiosity always drives her forward. She's very intrigued by new and exciting experiences. So now that she's not going to die anytime soon, these people seem to care for her well-being on some level. I think she's going to start absolutely, like, peeking her fins where they're not supposed to go.
Nice.
Let's get into the resolution phase, the segment of the show where we get to say something about the game with no responses. What is your final say on this session, Dex?
I can't wait to continue being surprised by the world that we're in and the worlds that we're going to. My Twitter is at DexFanWrites, DEXPHAN as in Nancy, writes as in writing a book. And then I am also part of a sister podcast at Dungeons and Drama Nerds podcast, so that's D&D Nerds. They do a podcast about dramaturgy and tabletop RPGs. So every season, we do one season a year, and we have multiple actual plays that go on during that time where we explore new systems and find out how those intersect with dramaturgy and like the theater world. Lastly, if you keep up with me on my Twitter, I am going to be doing some work on Viet fashion soon and cross that with orcs. So that'll be fun.
All right. What about you, Alex? What are your final thoughts?
I think the couple of hours that Smog and Juice were separated were the longest time that they didn't know where the other was in Juice's whole life. You can find me at Shining Crowbat on Twitter, and I really think you should check out The Rehearsal on HBO. It is a weird dive on actors being used in reality TV, but it also makes me consider like the characters we make for role-playing games and how that is interacting with our friends. It's very funny, but also strangely thought-provoking.
And for myself, I'm very excited to see what happens during our upcoming concert debut. Isiri and Tau Rock the World, our tour coming soon. And I am a little scared of the captain, so we are going to see how that turns out. You can find me in the graveyard at the third gravestone from the right. Please come on a foggy night. This has been Resolve, an after-play show. You can find us online at most social media sites at ResolveAP.
Except Instagram, which is at ResolveAfterPlay.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. You can buy the game we're playing, Interstitial, Our Hearts Intertwined, from its creator, Riley Hopkins, at linksmithgames.com.
All links will be in the description of the episode.
Thank you again for listening. We end our turn here, so now it's your turn. What's happening in your game?